In this lecture, let us discuss about creation of web crawler using Scrapy. So this Scrapy is a Python library which helps us to create our web crawlers. And Scrapy, it's an open source web crawling framework. So it actually helps, or it is used in order to extract data from the websites. So first it helps in data extraction. So after extracting the data, processing will be done. So data will be processed and the processed data will be stored in a preferred structure. So these are the steps. So in order to perform all these tasks, we need tools, right? So those tools will be provided by the Scrapy. So Scrapy gives you all the tools you need in order to efficiently extract the data from websites, process them as you want, and store them in your preferred structure and format. So Scrapy is used both for web scraping as well as web crawling. And it requires understanding about certain concepts like XPath, CSS, crawling, scraping, and so on. So let us try to understand various components present in Scrapy. So the first component is Scrapy engine. So what is the role of this? So here the engine is responsible for controlling the data flow. So it mainly controls data flow So this data flow between all the components of a system. So there will be multiple components in system, right? So the data flow between all the components will be controlled by the Scrapy engine. And coming to the second one, that is scheduler. So this scheduler, it enqueues the request received from the server. So after that, when the engine requests them, then the scheduler is responsible for feeding the request. So it will store all the requests, and whenever this Scrapy engine request them, then scheduler is responsible for feeding the requests which are stored. And coming to the downloader. So downloader is responsible for fetching the web pages. So this task of downloader is to fetch web pages. And these web pages, so these web pages are fetched and fed into engine. So what is the task of downloader? It is responsible for fetching web pages and feed those web pages into search engine. Next, we have spiders. Spiders are nothing but the custom classes which are returned by the users. So what is a spider? It is a custom class which is written by user. So why we need this custom class? In order to extract relevant information. So using this custom class, we can extract. It helps in extraction. Extract relevant information from fetched web pages. So from these web pages, we can extract information using custom class. So that custom class is nothing but spider. Next, item pipeline. So after the spider scrapes the data from internet, then this item pipeline is responsible for processing them. So here we extracted data, right? So this data, okay. So here item pipeline will process this data, the data which is extracted here. So this is responsible for processing. Next, downloader middleware. So it actually, middleware means it acts as a mediator, right? It sits between engine and middleware. Then spider middleware. So this component, it exists between engine and spider. So downloader middleware, it exists between engine and middleware. Engine and middleware. Whereas the spider middleware, it exists between engine and spider. So these middlewares, they are able to process spider input as well as output. Okay. So spider input and output is processed by this spider middleware. So here you can see various components. So first one is Scrapy engine. And we have scheduler, then downloader. Next we have spiders. Then item pipeline. Downloader middleware. So here middleware is represented like this. So this is the downloader middleware. Next we have spider middleware. This is a spider middleware, this one. Okay, so these are various components. Now let us see how data flow takes place between various components in Scrapy. Okay, so first the engine, it opens a domain, then locates a spider that handles the domain and asks the spider for first URL to crawl. Okay, so engine, first it will open a domain, locates the spider that handles that domain. So there might be multiple domains, right? So each spider, it may handle different domain. So it will locate the spider which handles that particular domain and then ask the spider for first URL to crawl. So here URL is also considered as a request. Then this engine, it gets the first URL. Engine gets the first URL from spider and schedules them in the scheduler. It receives requests from the spider and schedules them in the scheduler. So here say suppose this engine received 4 requests from this spider. Then all those 4 requests will be scheduled in scheduler. So they are considered as requests. Now the engine asks the scheduler for next URL to crawl. Say suppose these are the 4 requests. So first this at one particular point of time, first request will be handled and then second request will be handled, like that they'll be handled one after the other. Now whenever the engine asks the scheduler for next URL to crawl, scheduler returns next URL to crawl to the engine. Say it handled first URL which was scheduled in this scheduler. So that will be sent to this engine. Now engine sends the request to downloader. So engine sends that first request to the downloader. So how it will send that? Through the middleware. And this middleware is called as downloader middleware. Next. So here downloader, it downloads the requested web page from the internet. So it received one request, right? So that web page will be downloaded by the downloader and generates a response and sends it back to engine. So that response will be sent back to the engine. Now this engine sends a response from downloader. So this engine, it will send the response from the downloader to the respective spider that generated the request. Say suppose there are spiders like 1, 2, 3. And if the request was received from this second spider, then the response should also be sent to the second spider only, right? So that is the responsibility of engine here. So engine, it should send a response from the downloader to the respective spider that generated the request to. So how it will send that response? through this middleware. This middleware is called as spider middleware. Then spider process the received response. So after receiving this, spider will process that response by extracting needed items. So from the response here, it is nothing but the web page, right? So it will process that response. So it will extract all the necessary items and generate further requests if needed. So it will process or extract necessary items from the web page and generate further requests. So if it is having few more requests, then it will send those requests to the engine. Now this engine, it sends the extracted items to the pipeline. So here items or requests will be sent by the spider, right? So if it is not having any other further requests, then it will send only the items. So the extracted items, they will be stored in this item pipeline. So it can be sent to this for further processing or for storage. Along with that, if there are any further requests with the spider, those requests will be sent to the engine. So if there are any such requests, then that request will be sent to the scheduler. Okay. And this process, so how long this process will continue? So this process will be repeated until no further requests are available with the scheduler. Okay. So here the engine sends the generated request to the scheduler and asks for next request to be sent to the downloader. So already second request is waiting. It is in waiting mode, right? So now the scheduler will send next request to the downloader. And the same process which we repeated till now, so which we have seen till now, that will be repeated until all the requests in the scheduler are handled properly or until there are no further requests available with the scheduler. So what is the need of scheduler in this case? So is it required? Yes, because Scrapy, it always follows asynchronous processing. That means here the requesting process does not wait for response. So it just continues with the further tasks. So once a response arrives, requesting process proceeds to manipulate the response. So in the same way, spiders also, they work in the same way. Spider, they send out requests to the engine, which in turn they are sent to the scheduler. So spider's engine receive requests from the spider and it sends those requests to the scheduler. So there can be any number of spiders, right? So in our scenario, we consider 3 spiders, but there can be any number of spiders. Assume that each spider is sending n number of requests. Say the spider 1, it is sending 9 requests. Spider 2 is sending 6 requests. Spider 3 is sending 5 requests. Like that, each spider can send any number of requests. So in order to handle all these requests, the scheduler makes use of queues. So scheduler uses queues in order to handle the requests. So it keeps adding new requests to its queue and dispatches requests from its queue when asked by the engine. So all these requests, they'll be added to this queue, and whenever engine asks for a request, then it will send that request to the engine like this. So that is the reason why the scheduler is considered as one of the most important component in Scrapy.